And I guess we'll go ahead and start sharing and do a couple of quick intros as we get started here. So from my side, I'm Chase Summers. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer of Data. But today we'll be focused around our special guest, Stashik, who is a part of Murdio. I'll allow him to introduce himself in a moment. But just for those joining in, so Murdio is one of the top data intelligence implementation and consulting companies globally. And we've partnered with them in more ways than just one, but primarily today for this webinar. So Stashik, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, great, thank you. So you should be able to see the presentation. Yeah, okay, so hello and welcome. Yeah, today we're going to talk about the data catalog and all things related to it. So as Chase mentioned, yeah, I'm a part of Murdio, which is one of the world's leading data intelligence implementation and consulting company. And we implemented dozens of projects for big corporations, mainly from Europe and US, and from different sectors, including banking, pharma, retail, or big tech. And among the services we provide, we implemented tens of data catalogs. So basically, we know a thing or two about that. We deliver tech teams and individual experts who implement and develop various data management tools. We act as an advisors when selecting a tool stack, and we also provide tech consulting on how to get most of your data management tools. So today's presentation will be the practical view and some practical or real-life examples of data catalogs we encountered over the years and over our projects. So 2 words about me. I've been active in data governance space for almost 3 years now, and I specialize in data catalogs and worked for pharmaceutical and financial institutions. And before that, I was doing well, something quite different. I was involved in robotics. I also had my own consulting company. But then at some point, I realized that data governance and data itself is something fascinating, and that's why basically you're listening to me right now. So moving on, I will cover 4 major points before we move to the discussion. So we're going to talk about what the data catalog is and what it isn't. Why do you need one? How to start with the data catalog, but more importantly is how to secure or make sure that the adoption is on the right track. And then, as mentioned, we'll talk about some real-life data catalog examples. So before we start, I'd like to take a step back and talk about data itself. Right, the data is an asset like any other asset in the company, but it has to be treated a bit differently than, I don't know, financial assets or tangible assets. But basically, data is money, but it is money that can be made by better data management or saved by the good data management, or it can be lost because of bad data management. So basically, when you're talking about data, you're also talking about the money that you can either get or lose. And basically, when you were talking about data governance initiatives, you need something to be governed. So the data is the loyal subject to be governed. And I'd like to think about data catalogs or data cataloging as a great library of your data, right? So you have your data, you have the metadata that describes your data. So it's like a library, right? You go in, you're looking for a specific book from a specific author, from a specific publisher, for example. So you find this data at the front desk or at this computer station, and then it tells you, okay, we have it or we don't. And then if we have it, okay, you need to go here and there or there and to get it. So it's like I think it's a good good comparison. Okay, so the data catalog is a single source of truth, right? It's like that this one ring to rule them all. Because if you want to use the data, first you need to find it, right? You need to know where this data is, or if it's not there, you know that you cannot use the data because you don't have it, right? You need to understand the data. So you need to know what it is about, right? So you need to add context to your data. You can add a logical or conceptual layer on top of the physical one, right? So you have tables, you have schemas, you have databases, but then what does it mean, right? What's inside? What data or what can you learn from the data inside of them? And then you need to trust this data, right? You need to know that it's reliable. So so you know that when you use it, it is actually going to bring you money and not to lose you money. So before you use the data, you need to find it, you need to understand it, and then you need to trust it. Okay, so then what the data catalog is not. So basically, a pile of data more or less organized is not a data catalog, right? So if it's poorly designed or not designed at all, pile of data with maybe some searchability enabled, this is not really a data catalog. It's just a pile of data, usually unreliable because you don't really know if you can trust it. It can be even scattered around different places. So maybe several departments have the same data sets. They may paid for them several times for the same data. So you need something that has structure that you can actually use to make your work meaningful. So just having a catalog of data, it doesn't mean you have a data catalog. And data cataloging, and why do you need one, right? You need to make your data meaningful, right? So you need to, if you want to play data music from data noise, you need a good data catalog, right? So I like to think about this as you can play a symphony just on the piano, right? But then you need the full orchestra to play it completely. So you can get the melody right, but it's not the same thing as having the whole orchestra playing the symphony. So meaningful data catalog is a meaningful metadata. So you need to describe your data accordingly in order to use it. So, for example, your boss says, okay, I need sales report for Q2, right? So you might ask, okay, for which product, for which region, I don't know, for which sales channel. So the boss says, okay, let's give me a sales report for middle-sized cars in Southern California sold by independent dealerships, right? So it's a bit better, but then there are more questions, right? Okay, so where can I find this data? Where can I get access to it? Is it up to date? What format is it in? Is it usable right now, or do I have to do some transformations? So the questions are piling up, and having a good data catalog answers those questions fast, and then basically points you to the right directions. And I'm going to cover 4 areas on how or where to start with data cataloging. And the first one is the bottom-up versus top-bottom approach. So bottom-up meaning that somebody from department X is seeing some value in data cataloging, and it elevates it higher. The top-bottom is the other way around. So the management says, okay, we need to implement the data catalog, so let's do it. But you need to consider what is needed versus what is fancy, right? So what's your biggest or what's your immediate pain, right? Why should you introduce the data catalog to your company? Maybe it's cataloging the data sets you buy from external vendors, or maybe you want to get a glimpse of what's in which data set, like I don't know, sampling or profiling of the data. Or you need to organize your data based on some predefined criteria, right? So you need to classify your data. So whichever pain it is, or whichever need it is, you need to identify it, right? You can, of course, get inspired by what other companies are doing or what other people are doing, but do not expect to be there right away, right? So don't compare your level 1 or level 0 even when you're starting with somebody's level 5, 10, or 100. Right? You might get there eventually, but probably not right away. You need to learn how to crawl before you walk, and then you can try running. Yeah, basically, don't try to boil the ocean. Try to do it slowly, but with a plan, with the future goal in mind. And then also you need to assess the effort versus the real value, because sometimes you say, okay, let's catalog everything, right? And then you spend hours, days, weeks cataloging everything, but then for example, you chose the wrong tool, or there was something wrong with the idea how to connect everything together, and then the result might not be that good. So again, assess the work required versus the expected results, which brings me to the next slide about the allies and low-hanging fruits, right? So where you identify the need, so now let's see where you could achieve the best results, right? Or where they can be achieved the fastest, right? Who can benefit from them first, right? If something makes the work of analysts faster by, I don't know, hour or percentage, that's a number that you can actually show to your manager or show to the management, and then that will get you going. And allies, right? It doesn't have to be somebody from the management from the very beginning. It's nice to have CEO backing you up, but maybe it's someone from accounting, or maybe someone from sales, someone who has the common need. So this means you have the common goal. Like, I don't know, maybe they are struggling to meet the compliance requirements, right? So you need to find somebody who will be willing to work with you on the data cataloging initiative, because doing it by yourself, or just being one person or one-man army usually does not do the job. So next, we're talking about the tool selection. Basically, do not shoot the mosquito with the cannon, right? If you need a bike, don't buy a plane. So you need to select the tool that's the best suited for your needs, and then try to think, okay, what if I grow? What if my data catalog will grow? What if I want to add another modules? Maybe I want to do some, I don't know, policy governance, right? So try to think what you need now, but also bear in mind that in the near or not that near future, you will need to expand. And also choose a tool that actually offers you what you need. Bigger companies tend to buy a very sophisticated tool with all kinds of features and all kinds of gadgets they don't really need. Usually when you're starting, try to focus on what's really needed, and then again, looking at cost versus needs, you can expand later on. Yeah, depending on the size of the company, there are a wide selection of tools for smaller companies, for big companies. So there's a wide range of tools that can be that you can choose from. Resources, right? There's a small anecdote about Napoleon. When he was touring France, usually he was greeted with the shots from the cannons. And in one of the smaller cities, there were no cannons, no shots, no cannons fired. So Napoleon asked the mayor why. So the mayor started by saying, first of all, we don't have any cannons. So basically, if you want to run your data cataloging adventure, you need to have resources. And I'm not talking about money or tools. That's important too, of course. But I'm talking about the people, right? So we need some kind of a governing body. Maybe later it will be the whole council, but you can start with just one person. Maybe it's just going to be you, right? But somebody needs to set goals and actually do the planning, right? So what the next step will be. Then you have the stewards, the people who do the actual work, who would talk with the people from the company, that they would feel actually create a data catalog and ingest the metadata to this catalog. So you need people who are actually going to work on the catalog. And then of course you need support, either internal or external if you need some guidance or support, right? And also you need to think of who is going to do it and when, right? So if it's just part-time, so the boss says, okay, so you have your normal job, so you can just take and create this data catalog when you have time, right? Well, it doesn't really work that way. I mean, you can create I don't know, proof of concept or a minimum viable product like this. But then when you're thinking about real data catalog with real business case or business cases behind it, you need to know that it takes time and it takes resources. Okay, so the previous slides we talked about, okay, what is nice to have or even must have in many cases. Now let's see why the adoption fails. And usually it's not one thing. Usually it's a mix of those points. Sometimes just two, sometimes all of them, right? So over-ambitious goals, right? Don't try to again, don't try to boil the ocean, right? Try to do a step-by-step. Try to plan it step by step, right? Because many projects, started very as a very ambitious ones, and then fail spectacularly because it was not doable, right? Then expectations versus reality, it's just a data catalog, right? It's not that simple. Okay, when you're doing your 5th or your 10th data catalog, yeah, it might get easier, but at the beginning, it is not that easy, and basically you can expect the unexpected. Things can go sideways, and yeah, again, when you plan it and then try to act accordingly, this should be minimized, or at least you expect that something might happen not according to plan. And then when you have no clear plan, no clear path, you just okay, let's just create a data catalog. It's like in Alice in Wonderland, right? If you don't know where you're going, it doesn't matter which way you take, right? You might get there eventually, but it may take you much longer than it should. And then when you have the data catalog and then you want to expand it, you want to add or create another data catalog, or try to connect the ones you already have, and then create some lineage. Basically, it's a never-ending chore, right? It's not a task. It's not a project that starts and finishes. Okay, creating the basic data catalog, yeah, that's a task. But then maintaining it, it's then basically ongoing task that when you embark on this journey, you basically need to continue. And then this usually leads to lack of engagement from all stakeholders, from the management to the people at the very bottom, because if it's poorly designed, if it's poorly planned, and nobody really sees anything in it for them, the engagement just fades away, right? And then the last one, insufficient budget or resources. Oh, come on, do this data. It's just a data catalog, right? You can do it, right? So then when the money runs out, or you don't have the tools, you don't have any guidance, you don't have any allies, this usually leads to a failure. So now let's look at some examples. And yeah, I might scare you a little bit, but in general, every adventure requires the first step. So those 4 examples are the projects that they had to start somewhere. So some of them are from the companies that have a long history or couple of years of history of data governance. Some of them are from the very fresh companies, fresh in space of data governance. So yeah, basically every journey requires the first step. So the first case study it's a rather simple project that was about the security measures catalog. So basically, it was a bottom-up approach. The business came to us and said, okay, I know we are starting with the data governance tool. We heard about it. We have our Excel list, static Excel list with a list of all the applications and all the security issues connected to it, how to mitigate or prevent security threats, things like that. But it was just an Excel list, like with all of its limitations. So it took us about 3 months to implement. But the result was that they were really happy with what they actually got. They got the catalog, which was actually more alive, I would say, because the lineage that was created, you could clearly see what's connected to what control measure, for example, is linked to which project or which application they're using. So they got this really nice tool with some diagrams as well, so they can see it also in a more graphical or graphic way, and they were really happy with the results. But as I said, it was just one catalog. The maintenance is down there, every couple of weeks. So this was a pretty nice, nice and enjoyable, I would say, data catalog, and from the simple Excel file with basically very limited control and very limited visibility of what's inside, they got this really nice interactive catalog. Then the second study is from the big pharmaceutical company. And it's an example of a top-bottom approach. So the management said, okay, let's go and let's introduce data products catalog to our company. And the problem was that they had the data assets catalog, they had data sets cataloged, but there was an issue with access to those data sets, because every data cataloging tool has the metadata describing the data, right? You're not working with the real data sets. You're not working with the real data assets. It's just a catalog. If you want to get to the actual data set, you need to get an access, and you need to get it from an external or internal server, right? But it's not from the tool. So the data products they had in mind was that they needed to have something which is not related to only one data set. So they said, okay, we want to have a table from this data set, and we want to have a column from that data set, and then we want to package it so it's ready to be shopped for, right? Like in Amazon, for example. So that's why they decided to go with this data products. So the project is implemented. but the devil is in the details. It was designed with one line of business. So basically, they said, okay, we want this, we want that, and it was designed according to their needs. But then when next lines of business started to onboard, it turned out that they had different needs. For example, one line of business said, okay, our data product will be just one schema. We don't need any additional tables or columns from different schemas. Our data product is a schema. So right now we have schemas. So why should we use data products? And then we want to search for those data products using different filters than you designed. So you would say it's a story you probably heard many times, especially with software development. Something similar happened here. So it's been implemented for over 2 years now, still counting. And the result as of now is a catalog of data products. So the indicator saying, okay, do we have a catalog of data products? Yes, we do. Is it really usable? Is it really, does it bring value to the users? Not yet. Hopefully in near future, it will. The third example is from the banking sector. It's about sensitive critical data elements. So sensitive critical data elements are highly sensitive customer data or financial information, which could potentially significantly damage the whole organization if leaked or mismanaged. So again, this was a top-bottom approach because of the compliance requirements. What happened is this used to be a small bank, but it became a middle-sized bank. So when you become a middle-sized bank, you need to comply to some strict regulations. And one of those regulations is to manage sensitive critical data elements. And what they had in place was they had a catalog or identified data elements, and there's a mistake here, critical data elements. With over 100 applications that had to be reviewed for those sensitive critical data elements, we talked with over 100 owners. We had to resolve the ownership issue for the critical data elements, and then that later became sensitive critical data elements. And of course, we were working under the pressure of time because they got 6 months to comply to this requirement. Eventually we made it within 6 months, so the compliance requirements were met. So this part of the data catalog was done. Of course, this was just a small part of what other teams were doing, but yeah, this one completed successfully. And then the fourth example is a clinical trial catalog. So again, pharmaceutical sector. Bottom-up approach. So again, the team approached us, the data architects, and said, okay, so yeah, we're using this data governance tool. And since we're doing the clinical trials, we want to file, or we file FDA documentations for drug approval process. We want to keep track of all the forms, and we need to get all the information that is needed for this approval process. Right now, we do it in Excel, we do it in Word, we do it manually. We want to have it all in one place. We want to have it nicely organized. We want to have some automation. So basically, we want this tool to help us with that. So they already had this forms and fields they were using. They had all kinds of data dictionaries they were using, all the code sets, everything was in place. And basically what was done, we need to map the raw forms and fields in those forms to the standardized forms and standardized fields, then apply the standardized coding and get the formatted Excel file to be used, especially formatted Excel files to be used in other systems. So it was rather complicated mapping. So yeah, that was a tough one. But the MVP was done in 4 months, and the full implementation was approved, and it will be done in the next 12 months or so. So before we move to the question and discussion, we have a little freebie, a little surprise for you. So the first 10 people who will sign up will receive 1 free hour of consultation with one of our experts. And the topic is of your choosing. Maybe you want to ask about if you need a data catalog in your organization. Maybe you want to talk to us about how to start, what tools are available, or basically ask us anything. Here is your chance. And you can do it by clicking on the link provided on the lower left corner of your screen to book your spot. Okay, so yeah, if you have any questions, if you would like to elaborate, if you would like me to elaborate on something that I mentioned, yeah, here's your chance. Okay, so please speak more on where to start with data catalog. Okay, so yeah, basically try to identify a need. Why do you need one, right? Why should you have a data catalog in your organization, right? What's the immediate need? What's the immediate pain that you want to address? So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is, okay, who will benefit from it? Is it just me, or is it my department, or maybe it's the whole organization to some extent, right? So maybe you have some I don't know, pile of data sets, right? So you know, some departments are using the same data sets, and nobody knows who owns which one, who bought what from whom, how it is used. So this might be a good use case to start. Or you have I don't know, a lot of Power BI reports that they are scattered all around, and then you want to have a one place where you can basically browse through them. Or you perform a lot of analysis, and you want to have one place, you know, to search those analysis. And maybe you want to also connect them to the data sets that were used for those analysis. So those cases can be, yeah, it differs from company to company. Basically, you need to identify the need. Why would you like to start with the data catalog, and what benefit it will bring to you? Okay, Muhammad asked a question about the best tool. So Chase, you can start.
Yeah, obviously, Muhammad, I'm biased with Dataito. Typically, Dataito is targeted more towards a beginner data catalog, just simply because it's very lightweight. And we also try to position on pricing around the beginner data catalog. And one of the bigger things to know there's not a ceiling, so it's not like you're going to use a beginner data catalog and then need something more powerful. Ideally, as Dataito is growing, it's something you're able to mature with, and you can enter at whatever pace you would like, at whatever maturity level your data environment is. So again, as a market standard, I believe Dataito is a great beginner catalog. And Sashik, maybe you have other recommendations too. We can be a little unbiased for a moment. You can share what you think would apply.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, this again is a question of what size of of the organization you're coming from, right? We as Murdio work, for example, with Colibra, right, which is more towards the bigger organizations, but we've also worked with Ab initio software, which is more. I would say more technical. It's not. It's more technical, user oriented, like the analyst, right? Not just your average Joe from the company. So again, this depends on what your needs are, and then if you want to talk more, and maybe you can tell us more about what your needs are, so we can advise you on some tools. So feel free to book this 3 hour, and then I think we can elaborate on that. Okay, so this is for you again.
Yeah, so the question is regarding any government agencies in South Africa using Dataedo data catalog. I'm interested in Dataedo, played around with it, easy to use and implement. So happy to hear that you've had a positive experience with it. As far as governmental agencies, I don't believe we have any governmental agencies in South Africa, but we have more than quite a few different governmental agencies worldwide, and those are, countries spanning from US to the UK to, Eastern Europe, all the way into Australia. So our government providings or offerings are always in line with that, and usually there's not a ton of difference as far as the functionality there and where you find benefit, but we can likely, so I'll send you an email independently, and maybe we can have a conversation as far as what that looks like. Awesome. Thanks, Sukyo. Perfect. Yeah, I don't see any other questions coming through, so I guess we'll go ahead and wrap up. It's been a productive conversation. Stashik, I appreciate you showing us around and chatting with us. And for those in chat, you can find more information on Murdio on their website. So if you didn't click the button in the bottom left, I would encourage you to get in touch with them directly and make sure that you spend time with them. Again, they're going to be a great unbiased option as far as how to tackle your projects and best practices, and I would encourage you to take advantage of that free hour of consulting. So yeah, great. Stashik, thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Bye, everyone.
Okay, great. Fine. Goodbye.